Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This is episode 81 or the 10th episode of the series of recordings that I have been creating for you during the year 2022. Thank you for being here today. Hello, and as you can see, I am accompanied today by Clarisabeth of Crochetcakes.
Otherwise known as her daughter.
Right, but specifically it is me who is invading her area because I am in Florida this week, and so it was time to upload a podcast, and we decided to just film something together. I'm kind of working on an idea that I think I might put into effect during the last half of the year and see how it goes. That instead of coming every 2 weeks and presenting projects that I have worked on, sort of like this, show and tell that we used to do in school, I thought we would carry on with a theme. And so initially I was thinking about doing a theme every 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
So if we work for the year round, it would be 4 themes a year. We could talk about things like dedicate 3 episodes to freeform crochet projects and dedicate another 3 episodes to something like crochets that combine knitting and, projects that combine knitting and crochet.
Crow-knits?
Crow-knits.
Knit crow.
Crow-knits, I think it sounds a little better. But something like that. Or we could dedicate a series, I could dedicate a series, you and I could dedicate a series of 3 months worth of podcasts towards topics instead of just picking any project that I feel like doing in the moment. Maybe have our podcast more themed and more geared towards a specific content. So I'm going to try that out. Please let me know, if you would like, in the comments below if you think that something like that will make this podcast a bit more entertaining and will make you want to come back every 2 weeks looking for me, even when YouTube doesn't give you the notification that I just uploaded a new podcast. So just let's converse about this idea and kind of make this a community decision. It's not always easy because not a lot of people give you comments. So even though you ask for input, you kind of end up making the decisions ourselves and just hoping that everybody will play along with it. So that's what it's going to be like around here, hopefully. It's hard to say now because, as you know, I have been traveling over the year to and from my home, which is normally in Puerto Rico, the western side of the island of Puerto Rico, where I live with my husband. And but that has not been the case for most of this year. I've been coming and going, and I've been going to New Hampshire, to Alabama, to Florida, and so I don't have all of my tools, I don't have all of my books or my references. I've just got my computer, my cell phone, and the internet, but I don't have the raw material. And I really don't want to go out and buy more because
Florida's not an excuse.
Everywhere I go, I have a stash right now.
There's even a stash in her room here. I found it when I was gonna clean and organize her drawers when she was coming to visit, because my mother-in-law was also coming to visit the week before. So I wanted to make sure she had space for her stuff. And I'm like, a drawer full of yarn, what is this?
When did that happen?
Yeah, I'm like, when did this get here?
Oh my goodness. And then when I went home, and then when I was there, I needed some of the stuff that was here.
Yeah.
But then Clarissa didn't want to send it because she's Mom, but you're going to be coming back in a month. And yeah, it has not been normal. So if you are a first-time viewer, thank you again for deciding to take a chance, to give me a chance and to see what this is about. But I accept the fact that this has not been totally normal, that things have been a bit different because I have not been in my natural habitat. We were down to Alabama last week.
Yep.
Or did we go up? We went up because we're in Florida. We went up to Alabama.
You go up everywhere in Florida unless you're going down to the Keys.
Because neither Clarisabeth nor my husband had met my grandson Lucas. So we went down last week so that my husband could meet him and Clarisabeth could get to know her nephew. And we weren't there for a long time, but it was we drove. So it was a very long drive there and back.
Yep.
And we did all we could to keep ourselves from jumping all over each other. And
well, it's just hard driving 6 hours.
12.
Because, well, I drove 6. My dad drove 6 because Mom said, unless you are incapacitated, I am not driving.
I was just a reserve driver just in case something went wrong with the other 2 pilots. But no, I didn't drive.
She said,
but,
no, thank you. Hard pass.
And it's been hot here, but it was boiling there.
Yeah, for like the first 3 days.
The first 2 days. The last day that we were there was kind of nice.
Yeah.
They had nice temperatures, but for the most part, they have basically the same warnings that they have here every once in a while of not to go outside because it's too hot. And
I love that one. It's like, please do not step outside. It is too hot. And you're like, no, it's not. Step outside. Change my mind. I think I can just, stay inside.
When all the heat hits you and the air is kind of like really heavy and hard to breathe in. So we had a nice couple of days there. Mm-hmm. And I'm back now, but I will leave again on the 5th of July next week after the 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
And so I wanted to get this podcast done and up before I leave because here, Clarisabeth is a professional. So she's got all her setup. She's got ways to bring in more light and she knows what time of day is the best for such and such a thing.
I'm glad I lied successfully.
But in Alabama where I'm going, the house has really poor lighting and I still don't know.
I think you could podcast outside, like in the mornings.
If I could breathe. If I could breathe.
It wasn't so hot the last couple of days, very early.
The thing I found about the outside is how to control ambient noise because you get all the noises from the different animals, the birds, the wind, everything, the cars that go by, and you even get an echo because it's open. I don't know. I guess I could try. But anyway, let's get this one out of the way first, and then we'll think about the next one. So, today is June the 30th, and I am hoping to finish this and get it up before 12 o'clock midnight on our time. Those of you in the UK, if anybody is waiting for this podcast, you'll see it tomorrow. So, I always begin my recordings with the section Walking the Talk, in which I share with you something that I have made in the past and how I incorporate that outfit or garment or particular home decor into my everyday life. So today I am sharing with you a blouse. It's all about linen right now. You go, all the stores you go to, they've got linen, everything, and we really finally did figure out that it's because linen is a lot cooler than any of the other materials that we have been using so far. Don't you think? I know when she was down in Alabama, she says, it's linen for me.
Yeah, I did. It was, I think it was in the high 90s with the humidity and it felt like 120 degrees.
106, 120. It felt like 120 to you. It was probably around 106, even 110. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I know before we went down to Alabama, we went miniature golfing, and if it wasn't for the linen shirt I was wearing, I think I would probably not have made it out of that course. They would have had
if it wasn't for the refreshment, what was I drinking? Mango mojito?
Something like that.
A daiquiri.
Yeah.
A mango daiquiri.
I was going to say, which one's the lazy one that doesn't have any mint in it and it still has fruit?
That's a daiquiri. but it was fantastic too. But the thing is that linen is back.
Yeah.
And
it's summer.
And, I mean, it might have always been here, but I just never realized. I just never saw so much of it in the stores that I visit locally. And so I was able to purchase this. It's just a tank, a linen tank, and it is very roomy. So I wanted to add a modesty panel. With this one, the problem wasn't that it was going down and you could see my bust. It was that this kept falling off, and that bugs me to death. You know, I'm the type of mother that will always be lift it up, putting things back into place. So that bothered me. So I added this panel. As a matter of fact, I had other idea for it using freeform crochet scrumbles, but it didn't turn out. I was a little bit out of practice, and this I was able to whip up in about half an hour. She did that
last night because when I went to sleep, she was
about
still
10:30.
Yeah, you were still joining scrumbles together, trying to figure it all out. And then I woke up this morning, and when she comes back from doing her exercise, she's wearing that shirt. And I'm like, that's not what you were making last night.
No, I changed my idea. This is a panel made following the instructions for the Shepherd's Purse top by the Crochet Project. So they have a complete garment made out of this design, and it's a simple design of shells and loops, and I really like it a lot. I like it a lot for specifically the linen. For the linen. It really stands out straight.
Cotton linen blend.
Oh. I wish I had known that before I started it.
She grabbed this from my stash. It was what was left over when I made my what I call the Cleopatra top, but it was just a linen top with a collar, very inspired by an Egyptian beaded net dress, which of course wouldn't have been what they wear normally because heavy, and also how do you get into it? But anyway, so this is Universal Lena cotton linen blend. I think it was a 60-40. Don't quote me on that. I've been looking at too many linen yarns lately. But it is wonderful. It does have that, as Mom can tell you from working with it, it does have that linen feel, and it definitely stretches a lot. Like linen, it just does what it wants, and it wants to be free. So,
well, it was 10:30, so I didn't swatch. I definitely didn't wash this 3 times. But I made it exactly the size of the hole, and especially this stitch, because there are shells and loops, it stretches a lot. So I was able to stretch it that little bit that was missing. So I just wanted a piece that would pull in my straps.
And you sewed it on the inside, right? You didn't pick up your stitches to sew it?
I sewed it on the inside because
really
this edge here is like double, so I just sewed it through the top portion of it.
Okay, that's why I don't see any.
There's one I think that I went through.
It's just me in the podcast just sticking my hand in there.
Take it off. But okay. I didn't know it was a linen cotton. I probably understand it. Yeah, you must be right by the thickness of it. But I really do like it. The panel is nice and sturdy. It stands up. It doesn't fold over. And I think it did the job that I wanted it to do. This has the back is the same. I was thinking about doing the panel for the back also, just because I liked it so much. And it doesn't really take that much time. But
I can tell you it doesn't, because I went to sleep and I woke up and she had a new shirt.
Exactly. It actually does add a different look to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like as shabby as it. I mean, it was just a tank in linen, and so it would fall all over the place. And this kind of gives it a little bit of structure to it.
I also wore something that I made specifically to participate in a cow, and this was last year's Summer Romance cow. And it is
the theme was
paranormal romances.
I was going to say ghostly. Paranormal.
And my couple was, of course, my favorite couple, Evie and Rick O'Connell. And yeah, I chose to make the Treasure Island shawl because, hello, they hunt treasures, it's the mummy, but also this beautiful yarn. This is from my friend Anna of Stitchcraft and Wizardry, and this is her Hercule Poirot base. It's just a beautiful off-white sandy tonal yarn. So I thought it was very nice to describe visually, basically all the scenes. Yeah, the sounds that just takes.
And this is the Treasure Island. That's from Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet.
Yeah, Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet. I always want to say her name wrong. 8 years, still want to say her name wrong. But anyway, yeah.
It's also a great shawl because you can make it in fingering, you can make it in DK, and you get a larger one, and you can make it in worsted and still get a larger shawl, and they all with the same bands of sort of like lace running down different portions of it.
And I think, I mentioned this is a summer romance cowl, which is one of the types of cowls that we'll be talking about today, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. But Mom, why don't you just take us to cowl territory?
Into the theme for this episode.
To infinity and beyond. No copyright infringement.
I know I didn't say it in the beginning, but this is the Mind and Muse Crafts podcast. And I am your host, Caroline. Thank you for joining me. But if anybody was new and has never seen the craziness around here, I'm usually a bit more organized when I'm by myself. But I'm off because I'm not
chaos.
I'm not in my territory, so I forgot to present myself. Although I think I did present you.
Yeah.
But so you don't get confused, this is not the Crochet Cakes podcast. So, this podcast was going to be called 5 Reasons... No. It was going to be called 5 Things That I Like About Cowls. Because I guess the idea was just to kind of like summarize and talk about the different feelings that people have towards this type of activity. How, I believe, I don't know if you think the same, the amount of cowls available has changed ever since the past episodes of 2019 and 20.
Onwards.
And
we've all had hard couple of weeks, hard year, hard consecutive years. And I think Mom's right. Ever since 2019, I feel, maybe you don't feel this way, but I feel I've certainly contributed, at least in the Crochet Cakes channel, to a kind of decline in the sense of community. Because when we both started podcasting, our idea was just to spread the love of crochet. There weren't many crochet podcasts out there. So a way that we did that was by creating cowls, joining in existing cowls, and just crocheting projects together, jointly in the same space with Ravelry groups and Instagram threads. So social media has certainly been good for that. But yeah.
I guess that was, from my point of view, the principal motivation and idea of a cowl. And cowl, if you're not used to the abbreviations, that
crochet-a-long with a C or a KAL, knit along with a K, or just a MAL, which is a make along.
Which means any craft is okay.
Those tend to be my favorite.
So, but one of the reasons that I began participating in cowls, as a matter of fact, I think the first cowl that I participated in was a knit. It was a KAL, and I think it was by the Bakery Bears, but they were allowing crochet projects.
There was a sock along.
And so I presented a crochet sock. But the idea is that sense of community, looking for like-minded people that share your love for a certain hobby. And even though this type of thing can sometimes, especially in the world we're living of so much chaos and so much things happening, and it seems like on a daily basis in the world around us, that we kind of like tend to think of these things as small things to occupy your mind when you should be thinking about more important things. But I think that is the idea, that you get so worn out by thinking about and listening to and hearing or experiencing yourself these day-to-day happenings that you need a break.
Yeah, it makes us feel impotent in a way, right? Like you're
all
powerless.
All these other things that make us feel exactly powerless, and
completing a crochet project kind of gives you that sense of accomplishment, that feeling of I can move forward. I did this thing and I can do other things, and it just kind of little small steps to build I don't want to say a more positive outlook, because I know some people can be a bit positivity toxic, like, oh, you just ignore all the bad things and think about all the good things, which fair, but also I think you need to process, and cows allow you to do that. It allows you a little bit of time that you can set aside and dedicate to you and to processing your feelings and just making something pretty at the end of it. So
and sharing with other people so that you can not feel so lonely all the time. I know that all through COVID we felt very isolated because of the different restrictions and the guidelines that we were giving to help promote social health. And so the cows should have been there. I don't necessarily feel they were, but cows should have been there to kind of get us out of our social distancing and our isolation and our solitude, and to share with other people even for a little while. So I don't know if any of you participated in cows during these past 2 years, but I can say for myself that I didn't. I know that in 2000, do you remember when Maria hit the island?
2017.
2017, the Hurricane Maria hit the island, and we were devastated by it, and we lost electricity island-wide, water island-wide, and there were shortages all over and things like that. And when we finally got back a little bit of electricity to a certain point near our home,
the first thing we did was post pictures to Ravelry
and to cows. I remember it was during October, so I was doing which was a cow that I usually participate. It was a mal.
It was a pumpkin mal.
Pumpkin mal,
hosted by Joanna of Stitching the High Notes. But there was another
Corgi
one.
Something
Once
about
Upon a Corgi.
Once Upon a Corgi. They did that together.
I
remember that I posted there.
There was another cow that was running, and I think it was a back to school sweater cow that was hosted by Tamara. And I think Faye was running the chatter thread, because I actually won that one. I remember I won a prize.
And that same year, I won a prize from a cow that I participated in with Addie Day Designs. And I still have that yarn because it's Australian wool, and I still have that yarn set completely at home because it's too pretty to find anything to do with. Who knows, maybe I could have done
so
the project you're working on now with that.
But are feeling lonely.
What I meant was that was one of the things that brought me so much joy when we finally got to open our emails, and I had an email from Addie Day Designs telling me that I had won a prize, and so it was really a happy moment that time. So that's one of the things that cows can do. They can help you give a community, share with the community, and you might have a prize here and there. And
it also depends on the type of cow you're joining. So for example, if you are not familiar with crochet-a-longs, you can have different types of cows or mals, in the sense that some of them are
focused based on
a pattern, or sometimes even a yarn, because I remember that the Bakery Bears used to host an opal cow, and opal is the German sock yarn, and another themed cow, which incidentally, I think it's my favorite one I've ever participated in, and it was project specific, and it was the Hotel of Bees shawl. And this was the Hotel of Bees that Mom made, and I commandeered or exchanged.
Who's the designer for that?
A spoonful of yarn.
A spoonful of yarn. That is correct. I agree.
Christina Hattering.
Christina Hattering. I agree.
And the cow was hosted by Betsy Makes, Sam of Betsy Makes, and Sandra of Cherry Heart And I remember I had also joined a sew-along, a bee sew-along at that specific time. So I was just so excited to coordinate my bag. And bear in mind, I do not like bees. Bees scare me. But I love beehives.
But the idea of beehives and honey is a sweet one.
Exactly. That was so good. Hey, that was great. So yeah, the idea behind it, as Mom said, was very sweet. And I made my bag, and then I just put all my yarn that I coordinated with my bag, I remember, because I think the yarn I chose was a silk blend, so it was very gold. And then I also did kind of, at that time, I used to collect, I'm not going to say collect is the correct word, a lot of Harry Potter yarns from Kayleen of Little Bean Loves Yarn. And I had the whole Marauders set, and that went into the Hotel of Bees. And this actually is one of my favorite makes. I didn't make it, like I said, Mom did, but I just love the combination of colors. This actually is a Rainbow Lupin colorway from Little Bean Loves Yarn. I made mine in a fingering weight.
This is, it had to be held double.
Yeah, this was...
This is DK, it was supposed to be made with DK weight, and I didn't have.
And I used fingering, and Mom used worsted.
A combination.
This is DK. No, this is DK.
I thought it was back.
No.
So then this is DK and this is worsted?
Yeah, this is worsted, and then this is Cascade 220 held double.
Held double.
Cascade Heritage, sorry, the fingering one. Cascade Heritage held double, and this one actually was very special because this cream colored yarn was from my first solo trip to EYF, where I got to meet Allison of Keep Calm and Carry Yarn, one half of Keep Calm and Carry Yarn, and I got to meet Catherine of Crafternoon Treats, and so many other... And
Sandra
of Cherry Horn, who I spotted because she was wearing a
Betsy Makes was there too.
Sam of Betsy Makes was there too. So a lot of good memories.
And that cow was special to us because many, I don't know if I should say all, but of the podcasters we were following participated in this one, and so that really felt like family, and that was a really fun and happy moment. Happy cow.
It really was, and I think it was the first cow we joined after Hurricane Maria.
Mm-hmm. And like Clarisabeth said, one of the other things that you can get from participating in this type of activity is the memory, right? There are so many memories in this because she remembers where she got the yarn, she remembers whose design it was, who participated in the cow along with her, people that she met, and so having something like that in your possession, hanging on the wall, or using it on frequently, at least, if not on a daily basis, is just warms you because of all the memories that it carries. And so I think that is another good reason why participating in CALs is good for your crafty health and also for your emotional health. And it's just, I think, I really have to say that I think it's something that I don't know if it's because we were doing too much of it, but it kind of got lost. Yeah.
And also when you join a CAL, it's a good way to get, if you're missing your motivation, it's a good way to get some crafting motivation.
Set goals. You set goals. By this time I want to have done this. Maybe you don't want to have completed the project, but you will have, like if it's a blanket or something of your first garment, but you want to have a good chunk of it done. And just knowing that the CAL is there and there's a limit. There's usually 2 months, maybe 3 months. Some people run them for a whole year even. But
Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet, I think she runs several CALs a year. I know she said she wasn't going to run as many as she used to once she had her beautiful baby girl. But Claudia and
she actually did a couple this year. Actually, this summer, I was trying to think of the CALs that were running from the people that I follow, and that's the only one I could remember. Well, besides yours, but she is running a summer CAL, but it is actually to make a sweater, because the theme for the CAL is that we need to make our winter projects in the summer and our summer projects in the winter, so that when the season comes around, we've finished our project by then and can actually use it.
That makes sense. I just can't work like that. If it's boiling outside, I can't. Even though we're very blessed to actually have functioning central AC. I'm a cheapskate, so I don't put it lower than 77 degrees. But hey, when it's 100 outside, that's a 30-degree difference, and it's significant.
It feels cooler.
Yeah.
It feels cooler.
So the other type of cowl, we mentioned this one, which was my favorite one, as an example of a project-specific cowl.
Project-specific.
What other cowls do we have?
I couldn't choose a favorite.
No.
The reason I couldn't choose a favorite was because every time I participated in a cowl, I have a memory attached to that project. And so I love the Sherlock Holmes scarf that I created, even though I think I've used it once because it's made from Highland wool, really thick and all that. I love the first felted hat that I made.
It's a very nice hat.
Which was to represent Mary of Downton Abbey. And I was never able to wear that hat because it's too small for my head. I have a big head. And so, but I have it there on the mantle. And because it's in itself, in addition to being a hat, it's very dainty.
Yeah.
It's something to look at.
Yeah.
And
I know you also joined the Blurred Lines.
Oh, yes.
Shawl.
That one I gave away.
I know, and that one was my favorite. Well, I can't say my favorite because I really like this one, but it just...
The favorite of mine.
The colors were just... That one's yours too.
Well, but I gave it to you, so now it's yours.
But, we mentioned the project specific and all those projects that you mentioned. I remember the cowls. I don't remember the titles, but I remember the time. I was there to witness most of them. And they were more of free form in the sense that you have a theme, and as long as you can justify putting your project in that theme, then you're fine. Other examples of project specific but a little freer is Ali's Strictly Sock Along, where the goal is to cheat and make a pair of socks. So that's kind of a theme.
Well, Claudia for Crochet Luna ran a cowl this year. I think it was in March, with several. I think you participated too, where the participation was to pick a pattern from one of a list of designers.
Oh, yeah.
And so she had like 7 or 8 designers, and you could participate as long as you made something from one of those designers. So that's a designer-specific cowl instead of a project-specific one. But I like the themed cowls most because I can pick something from my stash, and I really, really find it fun to take something that I have read or a movie that I have seen or a place that I have visited and try and represent it in a yarn and a project. I really think that is fun. And like I say, when you're finished, you have that project to remember all of those things. And so this year, the only project that I have worked on as of late is specifically a project for the Summer of Romance. Cow? They call it's a cow. Yeah. The Summer of Romance this year is themed historical romances.
So that just means that you pick a couple that has somehow been in a moment of history. I know that as people that are participating in the cowl, they've chosen Jamie and Claire of Outlander because, Claire travels back in time. There's also the Discovery of Witches because they travel back to the Elizabethan period. Someone chose Star Wars because technically canonical Star Wars is history when compared to the newer Star Wars. So I just appreciated that cheeky little insert of, yes, this is history because of this. I chose to represent, I'm a big historical romance reader, and it's always fun to check out the Ravelry thread so you can see what other people are reading or interpreting. But my couple was Margaret and Mr. Thornton of the North and South miniseries. I think it's BBC. Pretty sure it's still on Netflix. And so as Mom said, that's very theme specific because it gives you the whole array of freedom to pick a couple from any period, pre-1945 mostly, and just represent them however you want, however you visualize it. And yeah, I think, as Mom said, that's just fun.
So like Clarissa says, sometimes the cheating is in the way you justify, and you make what you chose fit into the theme. But with the novel that I chose, I have to confess that I am not an avid reader. I don't read and read and read like Clarisabeth does. I am very selective. I like Sherlock Holmes. I like Hercule Poirot.
Hercule Poirot, that's Agatha Christie.
Poirot. Agatha Christie, actually. I like mysteries like that, light mysteries, not these gross and horror mysteries.
But don't be misleading, because just because it's historical romances, you can have them be from a movie, a series, an anime, a drama. I know there's a lot of Chinese dramas that have been, specifically Chinese dramas. We're watching one on Disney Plus called Delicacies.
So then, if I chose that series, would that be a historical romance? Or a period romance? There's a certain dynasty. What dynasty is it?
I'm not sure, because they haven't really mentioned a year. I believe this would be under the term of historical fantasy, just because it is trying to represent a vague period of history, but it's not year specific. You can tell about the period because of the dress and, the wide sleeves that were traditional. She usually has them held back with that specific belt that would hold the sleeves back so she could cook.
Well, I chose The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, which is another one of the stories that a series or a movie that I watch over and over again. And I'm dating myself here, but that's fine. I don't care. Shamelessly. Anyway, The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, if you're not familiar with it, started out as a novel by, you know where it is? Where'd it go?
1947.
Josephine Leslie. The funny thing about this, her actual name is not Josephine Leslie. That's her first name and her middle name. She actually has a last name that doesn't appear, but she wrote under a pseudonym, which is R.A. Dick. Now put a U in front of it, and that would have been insulting.
That is exactly what I was just
thinking. And that
thinking.
would have been insulting, but yes, we do know that many women wrote with false names so that they could get published. But
I would really like to think that she chose that pseudonym on purpose. Maybe to make it a dig at a publisher that didn't want to publish her work, or made a stupid remark about, oh, you're a woman, you shouldn't be writing, you should be at home.
The thing about it is that it dates 1945, the original novel. And
when does it take place?
She was a British author. But yeah, I think it takes place at a different era.
That makes it historical, because I'm pretty sure when I was watching the show with you, the dress was Victorian. Or maybe Edwardian. Because
you can also tell by the way they treated women, what was expected from women and what was their role. Because it's all about a widow, a very young widow. She's in her early 30s. And the husband obviously passes away. That's why she's a widow. But the thing about it is she's left with 2 children, very little money. And she's left basically having to request from her in-laws some support. So that because her husband had, as many husbands did back then apparently, had spent all of their money and left her in a very poor condition. So she uses, but think about it, is that she has a very free mind. She wants to be independent. She wants to be her own woman. She wants to experience things that she did not experience while she had a husband. And she wants to prove herself capable of things that nobody thinks she's capable of, because in the original novel, she's a small lady, tiny body, and most people refer to her as Little Lucy. And so they think that she's also little-minded. And she goes out to purchase a cottage. The cottage is in coastal England. They don't say exactly where it is, but it was given off very cheap because it was supposedly haunted by its last owner, who was a seaman, Captain Greg. So you probably, if you're around my age, you probably saw the series. That was 1968. It only lasted 2 years. It had a very short life because other series
overshadowed it?
Yeah, overshadowed it. So it went from like NBC to ABC or NBC to CBS, one of those, and then they gave it another year and it just died away. But I love this. I have grand memories of the series from when I was growing up, and so I've read the novel from 1945, and you can purchase it from Amazon, and you can pay probably $3.99 and get also the audio version. And so that's what I did, so I could listen to it while I crochet. And as of late, I also found a novel called A Haunting Romance? No. A Haunting Love? What are those things?
I think it was that one.
It is it's not a remake, a rewrite of the original Ghost of Mrs. Muir. I'm not sure how somebody can do that, because from what I've read, it is the exact same story, but it is much longer. This one has over 2,000 pages in Kindle version, so maybe 600.
Well, I don't know, because for example, I know for Pride and Prejudice, a lot of people have done, let's say retellings of it, but it's just because they take Pride and Prejudice and ask themselves the question, what if? Mm-hmm. So I purchased a Kindle book. I forgot the title. I'll have Mom include it in the description box below, where you can find links to the things we're talking about. She said, what if Elizabeth had actually accepted Mr. Darcy's proposal when he first made it? How would that have changed the story? I've also owned and read books about, okay, so what happened after they got married, and it kind of explores the idea of Mr. Darcy being a parent and how in love he is with the idea of having children. Then we have a series called Death at Pemberley, which kind of reuses these characters, but they usually add their own twist. So
I haven't gotten that far to see what it is that they add, but I have been reading it little by little, and like I say, I fall asleep reading. So American sitcom, the TV series that I remember also was from 1968, and that was Edward Mulhare. You would probably recognize him if you saw him. Everybody thought he was so good looking back then. And Hope Lange. They changed the name there from Lucy Muir to Caroline Muir. I don't know why.
Probably because it was the same time that I Love Lucy was filming. So they might have, I don't know, just because you say Lucy and my first thought is I Love Lucy. So they probably didn't.
But one of the things that I always find strange when I listen to it is hearing my own name on television. Anyway, that's stupid, but it is a thing.
No,
and when the captain pronounces my name, it's just, oh, he said my name, because he's got that ghostly voice.
I love it. It's like, imagine if there was a romance heroine named Clarisabeth and we're like, oh, we're talking about me. Naughty.
That would be really strange. And so, yeah. But you might not believe it, but I don't really hear my name said that much. Most people have nicknames for me.
Mom.
My family usually calls me Carol. And my middle name is Kay, so some of my brothers and sisters called me Kay. And very few people call me by my actual name. So it's like I sit down and hear people call my name over and over again in these lovely voices. Anyway, why was I bringing that into the account?
Because you're going to talk about the project.
Yeah, but in case you want to look it up and find it, I recently purchased the complete DVD series. Well, it was a VHS series that somebody re-recorded onto. They probably took the DVD, re-recorded it onto a what do you call it?
USB?
Or USB, thank you. The USB, and they will send you the USB with the, I think there are 50 episodes.
Highly questionable.
Yes, but I think what happens is that after a certain time,
It's no longer in
longer
production.
copyrighted.
Yeah.
No longer protected because they were selling a lot of different ones. It wasn't only that one. And so she's talking about all these sneaky ways to take your favorite film, movie, novel, or whatever, and just connect it to the Cal in this sense. And we were also going to mention, well, it doesn't have to be the project, the finished project. Doesn't have to be something that came out in the movie, like a blanket or a specific garment.
Yeah,
it could also be the yarn could be connected in some way with the colors.
Like this one, for example, it's mostly because of the colors, that I chose. Also, Rick always has a scarf to protect himself from the desert sands and cream-colored pants because
khaki pants.
I think they were called. They weren't Jaipur pants. They had a specific. Those pants had a specific name, so he's wearing that, and so there's all these different things that I chose to interpret.
Right, and different ways to connect your project with whatever your favorite novel or person is, or a romantic couple, let's say, is. So back to what I chose. I chose
The Ghost of Mrs.
The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. In The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, neither in the original nor in the 1968 season or series, there's only an implied romance, is what I mean. It's not,
they're not
type of open romance that you can see in a lot of series. For example, Outlander, you wouldn't see that. It was just all implied. I mean,
it's not
you can't do certain things with a ghost. And so a lot of what they do, the relationship that they do form, is formed in her dreams because Captain Greg was not a ghost. He was a poltergeist, which means that he could animate objects and move them. He could appear and disappear as he wanted to, and he could affect the ideas that were in your mind.
Well, I'd have to say Sigmund Freud would have a lot to say about Lucy Muir. It's all in your mind. But does that make
so that's why I was thinking last night that this probably would have been a better project for last year's paranormal romance.
Of which you chose?
Last year I chose Ghost.
Very on the nose. Which was also very sad.
But anyway, so I am represented the implied romantic relationship because in the novel, a spoiler? Should I spoil it?
The people that have read it probably read it, Mom.
Right, 100 times. Because the people the forums that I participate in, they've reread it and reread it and reread it. And so at the end, she passes away and Captain Muir comes and gets her and they walk in the clouds together. So it's like they kind of like end up together in the afterlife or whatever you want to call it. So it was implied because
they
you really can't kiss a ghost.
Next adventure.
But
unless it's Casper at midnight.
Well, but he would put, but Casper's a ghost, he's a poltergeist. So he had more powers. He could put ideas, so he would put dreams of them being together in her head and things like that.
Sigmund Freud, again, would have a lot to say about that.
Well, he also supposedly puts in her mind his story as a captain, and she was going bankrupt, so he puts all these ideas in her head. She writes a book, sells the book to a publisher under his name and false identity, and she makes enough money to live her years throughout without need.
What about the kids?
She sent them to school, they studied, she was able to provide for them. I
just thought it was common during that time when your husband left you without anything and your in-laws were still affluent to actually leave the kids, because during this time the kids are considered, I don't want to say property, but they are usually left with the husband. So
yes, the in-laws wanted her to give them up for adoption or whatever, and so that's why she wanted to get away. She got away to this cottage, but the thing is that he sees her struggling, and so he gives her the means to make money, and so that she could live this free life that she wanted to away from her in-laws.
That's a Gloria no, it's not Gloria Estefan.
Well,
it's a song.
I think it would take us a whole nother episode to go into the what do you call it? The study the themes in this short novel.
Psicofonías de Amor. There's a song in Spanish called Psicofonías de Amor, which talks exactly about that. A girl that's considered very weird by everyone, and she walks into the house and it's haunted, and they fall in love. She's
Into an asylum.
Into an asylum, yeah. But
I believe that's what happens in this other book that I'm reading. That's the turn, the spin that they put on it. Because yes, who is going to believe somebody who falls in love with a ghost? Who sees a ghost everywhere? The ghost tells her what to do, and gives her recommendations of how to treat people and how to get people to stop bothering her.
Now it's stuck in my head. El fantasma.
Anyway, the crochet part of this podcast, I am going to show you. I am working on a project designed by Crochetcakes, and it is the flower duster. And I'll put up a picture here so that I'll remind you of what it looks like. And this is what I've looked at so far. I've got the whole back panel, and this is the front panel made. And then I'm working on the top back, I guess I'll call it. Mm-hmm. I'm just starting to work on the top.
How does this connect with the Ghost of Mrs. Muir?
Of course, because Captain Greg was known for having a very bad temper. And when he had, as a poltergeist, when he got his temper tantrums, he could control the weather. And one of the things he would do was he would send thunderstorms and lightning storms and windstorms and rainstorms to the house itself to open windows and stuff like that. He would get very angry. So that's represented by the gray, dark gray color. Also the beach where they live, the sand is very gray. And also the name of the colorway is silver lining. So every cloud has a silver lining, in the sense that at the end they actually end up to spending all of their eternity together. So I thought all that worked very well together, and I am using Comfy Cotton, Lion Brand's Comfy Cotton, in the colorway silver lining. It is not the yarn recommended by the designer. The designer uses Premier yarn, a cotton. Is it
acrylic blend? It's worsted cotton acrylic blend, yes.
It's worsted, and this is...
It is also a cotton acrylic blend.
DK, or very light worsted.
As a DK, but I don't know. When I worked with this yarn, I had to use a 6mm hook. Wow. Which is what they recommend, which I find very weird.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. The J.
The recommended is, yes, true.
6mm hook.
But it's number 3. So
I know.
That's a light worsted.
That's why I'm saying it's so weird that they classify this
But
yarn.
I think it's because of the weight also. Cotton is a very heavy yarn. And the designer worked it up in a 4mm hook.
Yes.
For the small.
4.5.
For the small. And then she says, if you want to go up to a medium or large, you should use a 5.
And then if you want to go up to an extra large, just use a 6mm.
And I'm using a 5.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I can never get this particular designer's gauge. I can never match it. So then I went, and I knew this yarn was thinner.
I'm a very loose crocheter.
I used the 5 as if I were making a large, but it's not going to be a large because I have all of the measurements of a small medium. So I think it's going to fit me fine. And it's supposed to be like for the summer, I'll block it and wash it, so this will open up more. And it will be a little bit lighter, but it could be even a beach cover-up or something like that.
Yeah, I've worn it to the... Ow, I keep hitting myself. I wore it to the beach with a little belt to use it as a cover-up. And it's very soft. Yeah, your version is very soft. Mine
I think it's going to stretch out, and all the lace is going to open up. And it's going to look very, very pretty. And so that's my connection to the Summer of Romance count. And just to show you that it doesn't have to be something that she wore in the movie. It's just, it's use your imagination, think outside the box. And like Clarisabeth said, you might make some earrings out of a color that... or shells in this case, or something.
Or what if she really
Or
liked...
you could crochet up a shawl with shells and say I'm representing the beach. And
shells were very popular in the Victorian period.
So yeah, there's 100 things that can be done, and it's just a fun way. I believe Clarisabeth opened up the Ravelry thread. I haven't put my projects in yet, but I was going to today.
And the Ravelry thread is a chatter / progress / finished object thread. It's just one general thread so that we can all chat about and just keep track of. And we are thinking, I have to message Claudia to confirm, but we were thinking about doing a live so that we can just catch up and see where everybody's at. I know 2 people have messaged me already, Sylvia and Lorna, not messaged me specifically, but shared their finish make on Instagram, and it was just lovely to see people that participate year after year, but also new people that are participating and how they interpret. So I know Sylvia did Jamie and Claire, and she chose to crochet a cowl because that is an item of clothing that Claire wore a lot during the series.
And as I say, every time I wear this, I will remember one of my favorite movies or books or series, which is The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. And I think that will make me happy.
Definitely.
So what can we do if not make ourselves happy with our craft?
Oh, that is the whole point, right?
So I think we've chatted a lot today. Do you want to share your summer romance?
Sure, I'll quickly share it because, just to shame myself into working on it. I am crocheting up a design also by Crochetcakes, but with a little twist because even though I design my projects, I can never make them the same way twice. Anyway, the point is that I am making the Maya socks, which are a lace sock to represent Margaret and Mr. Thornton. Now, this one is very liberal use of that representation because I am using the picot trellis stitch to kind of symbolize the rose trellis. And roses make a little sneaky appearance in the BBC version because there's a scene where they meet at a train station and Mr. Thornton gives Margaret a rose and she says, "You've been to whatever her home in the south was." Title was the name of it, the parson, because her father was a religious person. He was a parson. He was a parson, I think it was called. And she says, "The roses, but I thought they were all gone." And he says, "I found them in the hedgerow." Because Richard Armitage has very deep voice. Anyway, that's the specific scene I am interpreting with this sock. And I also chose this sock pattern to make it as knee-high as possible because during the time North and South takes place, women would have worn knee-high socks and they would have been tied with a little ribbon to stay on the knee area, right below the knee, I think it was, where the socks went. So I thought those were all little nods to the historical aspects in North and South. And that's what I'm doing. The yarn is Hawthorn Fingering, which Hawthorn is the name of a flower, I think, as well, so cheeky. And it's a fingering weight yarn crocheted with a 3mm crochet hook because that's how I roll.
So there you go. You can represent something with the yarn. You can represent a scene or a specific chapter or a specific page of your story or just a specific element that was mentioned over and over again in the novel, in this case, the rose. There are hundreds of ways that any way you feel, even in the slightest, that you can connect a project, you can choose it and participate in a CAL and make yourself a little bit happier.
And just stitch additional memories
and sharing your love and your hobby with other people who think just like you. So there's my invitation through this episode to give it a thought and try and find, if not this particular summer romance CAL, find another one in which the theme attracts you and you can share with other people and kind of half an hour, 2 or 3 times a week, be able to leave the bubble that you live in, right? And leave all those worries behind and just totally think about something else for a little while. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Clarisabeth, for joining me. And hope you like a little chit chat. If you liked it, please give us a like below and also subscribe or hit the little bell to receive notifications. If you know someone who's interested in this theme or would like to participate in CALS, or you think would like to meet us, would like to know us, please share this video using the share button below it, and give us a chance to be exposed to more people and to be able to take our little piece of happiness to more people. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a lovely 2 weeks. Keep yourself safe, keep yourself happy, and keep crafting. Bye for now.